Hey, well, I would like to welcome everyone to From the Stacks, Illinois Wesleyan University's Community Book Club. My name's Ashley Graber, and I am the Alumni Engagement and Events Specialist. And I just want to thank you for joining us. If you are a new participant, I just want to extend a warm welcome to you. And if you've been with us before, I just want to thank you for continuing to join us. From the Stacks is our webinar series that highlights alumni authors who've made significant impact in the world of writing. And we're so excited to have our esteemed author with us tonight, Bianca N. Cotton, class of 2011. And our guest host is Jessica Lothman, class of 2006. And tonight we're going to be discussing Bianca's book, Captivating Confidence, an 11-step guide to develop a healthy relationship with yourself and your own inner greatness. And we have a few housekeeping notes at first. If you are viewing this webinar as an audience member, and you will not be able to turn on your microphone or your camera, but we do highly encourage you to submit your questions about the book for Bianca or for Jessica using the Q&A feature on the Zoom toolbar. And we will answer as many questions as we can at the end of the event in a Q&A session. If you're having technical difficulties, please check the settings on your Zoom and your device. And if all else fails, try signing out of the webinar and signing back in again. Well, I am so excited to welcome this evening's author, Bianca Cotton. Bianca graduated from Illinois Wesleyan University in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in sociology. She also has a master's degree from DePaul University, specializing in management leadership consulting. She is a dedicated Chicago native and has over a decade of experience in nonprofit management and social justice. She is currently the Associate Director of Public Allies Chicago, and as a proud alumna of the program, she is instrumental in fulfilling its mission to transform leadership by training emerging leaders from historically marginalized backgrounds. As a trained W.K. Kellogg racial healing practitioner, she creates transformative spaces where individuals can develop, connect, and harness their innate abilities to achieve their purpose. Bianca is also founder of Behind the Confident Smile, a movement inspiring women to walk in love, live in hope, and heal from past wounds. Her show, Behind the Confident Smile, reached #1 on CAN TV in the fall of 2024, and her 7th season just started this past Monday. As an accomplished author of 9 books written in 7 years, Bianca was honored with the Healing Academy's Literacy Award in 2024 for her contributions to healing through literacy. Outside of her professional endeavors, Bianca enjoys writing, public speaking, and walking, all while persistently working toward a more just and equitable world. We're also giving a warm IWU welcome to our guest host this evening, Jessica Lothman. Jessica is an attorney with Hawkins Delafield Wood LLP, with practice focused on tax-exempt financings, and the current treasurer of the Association for Women Lawyers in Milwaukee. Jessica graduated from Illinois Wesleyan University in 2006 with a major in sociology and a minor in psychology, which she earned while serving on the Student Senate Executive Board. She placed 3rd at the D3 softball tournament, and she studied abroad in Ireland and China. And she became a member of Phi Beta Kappa and helped found the Council for IWU Women, where she is currently serving as the chair of our council. Her path to practice went through a 10-year career focused on higher education administration, specifically international education, during which time she earned her master's in education from Marquette University. She lived and worked in South Africa and Spain, and worked as a study abroad coordinator at Marquette University. Jessica currently lives in Milwaukee with her husband and 3 children, and when she's not working, she spends time shooting photography, and she proudly contributed to John Gerda's Milwaukee, the City of Neighborhoods project. She edits her husband's books, travels around the Great Lakes and abroad, and enjoys taking her daughter on Girl Scout adventures. Everyone, please give a warm welcome to Bianca Cotton and Jessica Lothman.
Thank you for that introduction. Too kind is probably the way to say it, but I'm excited for this conversation and talking to a fellow sociology major, obviously.
Yes.
I really want to start and say that reading Captivating Confidence was, really interesting to me, and I was really thrilled to have this opportunity to speak to you directly about it. I think in reading it, you provide a really great guide for high achieving, go-getting visionary women to, simultaneously achieve personal goals, but also personal well-being, which is so important in such a conversation today. But in illuminating that path, it's very personal, and there's a lot of details that you share about your own trauma. And I'm just curious, what inspired you to write this book and to make those personal
Mm,
details public?
Great question. First, thank you all for having me this evening. I'm excited to be here. So, why share what I experienced, right? Um, that was not the intention to share any of this, what is in this book. I went to a conference for authors in Atlanta, I think back in 2021 or 22. And my goal was to um, edit one of the books I had already written and republish it. But while there, I felt like there was more inside of me to share. So instead of going back to an older work, I was like, let's talk. Let me talk to myself, right? What
Mhm.
would I have needed to hear? And what does other women who may have had similar experiences who are go-getting, high achieving, and people like, yes, go get the awards, get the job, do all the things, but silently suffering or not taking care of themselves, doing the basic things like exercise, eating meals, drinking water, having a friend circle. So this book is for those women who were like me.
Yeah, I think that's really brave and courageous in so many ways. And as I read your Facing the Fears chapter, it really made me think of like having to confront that. And in that
Mhm.
chapter, you say, like, I really wanted everything to be a certain way. And it was not what I planned. No one's life is perfect, even if it looks that way in pictures. And that just really struck a chord with me because I like to think of myself as high achieving, go getting, and
You are.
visionary. I like to think I'm going to say that, if I may. But it really struck me that like I do have this idea of what I want the world to be in this picture perfect image, and I work really hard and put a lot of energy to that. I think in that same moment, often kind of miss what's in front of me and miss that beauty. And I also
Mm.
think social media kind of creates this image of people's lives being perfect, and we kind of narrate our lives through social media in this perfect way. And I'm just wondering if you can speak a little bit more about navigating through that picture perfect mindset of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. I'll start by sharing that I'm an ex, well, I call it recovering. I'm a recovering perfectionist. And what I mean by that is because sometimes it still creep up, right? Uh, so recovering is a continuum. In my mind, I am an idealist. I see the world as I think it should be, right? Everybody have access to food, to housing, to equitable education. When there's inequities and things come up against them, like it's rubbing against what the ideal picture, right? So it comes it is there for me. Then it comes down to my life. This is how I see my life. I have a 5-year vision board. At one time, I had a 10-year vision board. This is what I want to see happen in my life over a decade by year. By this year,
Wow,
this needs to
that's
happen. By
incredible.
this year, this needs to happen, right? And what happens when disappointment set in? Because things are not panning out in your timeline and how you envisioned it. How do you manage disappointment? And I was literally just having this conversation the other day. Like, I'm not sure if I truly learned how to navigate disappointment,
Yeah.
right?
I can't say I know how. I still haven't learned.
Like, was I ever taught? I do remember being taught to work hard, to study hard, to go for what you want. Um, that everything won't always work out how you see it, but is that really teaching how to manage and navigate disappointment when the picture that you have in your mind starts to look pixelated and break up? So,
Yeah, I mean, I do think,
eh,
right, it's the idea that you have to work. If you work harder, you'll get it, and you'll work harder, you'll get
yeah.
it. But sometimes you
So
can work as hard and not get
right.
it.
So I start to unlearn that in the midst of humanizing myself, right? I have a fabulous mentor who told me, Bianca, I need you to learn how to be a human being, not a human doer. And I talk about that in the book, like being a recovering perfectionist and constantly doing, but the doing is being applauded, right? Oh, you
Yeah,
got straight A's. You a straight A student. Great. You on principal scholar. Great. All right. You on the, oh, you going to study abroad. Great. But what happens when all of that goes away? You're left with yourself. And do I like me? Do I even know what I like, who I am outside of the external achievement?
yeah. That's interesting. I think, yeah, I think it's an important question. I think a lot of us probably have so much going on, we don't have time to even stop and think. And I think, as you know, like the first step from this whole journey was like checking in with yourself. And one of
Hmm.
the barriers to that is really, kind of focusing outward and fixing external other people's issues so you don't have to grapple with your own, which that really kind of is an interesting um, kind of mechanism for coping with that. And I'm guessing, like, how do you work through that? Like, what are your tips for kind of stepping through and actually checking in with yourself and getting to that question about, do I even like where I'm at? Is this what I want now? How do you do
Yeah.
that?
So first, I would say if you are near Google, you can type in feelings wheel. So I discovered a feelings wheel through another colleague who I was sharing one of my goals with some years back, that I wanted to expand my emotional vocabulary beyond mad, sad, angry, happy. Right? Like when somebody asks, how you doing? I'm good. Or things are well. Like I wanted to expand my emotional vocabulary and truly be able to pinpoint, how am I being in this moment? What is showing up for me? So that's, for me, step one. Expanding your vocabulary if you find that your vocabulary is limited, because one, that will help you to better express yourself to yourself, and then better express yourself to others whom you are in relationship with, and trusted relationships, might I add, trusted.
Yeah.
Because
Important
that
adjective there.
matters,
Yeah, it's an important
right?
adjective. Yeah.
So
What are some of your
check in
responses?
with,
I'm sure everyone's looking at the feelings wheel and like Googling it
yes,
right now.
feelings. So
But what are
feelings
some of your
will is
favorite
number one.
go-tos? Yeah.
My
What are your go-tos?
I don't have go-tos because I've expanded. I use a lot of the feelings on the feelings wheel, and I'm very honest. I'm
Yeah.
very honest. So I don't have go-tos, and that is, for me, it's also demonstrating honesty and vulnerability with myself, saying, you know what, I felt disgusted by the interaction, or I'm flustered, or um I feel numb, right? So it gives range when you take the time to intentionally um, use the feelings well. And this is another tip with that. I started practicing when someone I trusted would ask me how I was doing. I will pause, go to my phone because I screenshotted the feelings wheel. I will look at it and say, this is how I'm doing. Because if you really want to get better at something, how do you get better at it? By practicing, by putting it into action on a regular basis. So that's one of checking in with yourself. Something else that is helpful is having a morning routine or ritual or evening routine. So if prayer or meditation, sitting in silence, going for a walk, journaling, whatever helps to ground you before you start to engage with technology or with others, that's another way to check in with yourself as well.
Those are great tips. I think, yeah, integrating those. I like the idea of practice, right? We're not all going to get this perfect and change our lives completely in a day, but it's a practice. And every day you put a little bit more into action. I think that's very attainable, right? It's more sustainable,
Yeah.
less overwhelming that way.
And sit with and something else you may find that I found is sitting with the discomfort of this is in this moment, this is what's coming up for me, this is how I feel. That may be uncomfortable if you aren't used to practicing being that transparent and vulnerable.
Right. If you're looking externally and not internally, if you're not used to doing that internal check, that makes a lot of sense for sure. I think on the other end, so on the first step, it's checking in with yourself. And on that final step, it's all about finding joy and what sparks that joy. Both of those pieces take time, right? And I think in our very hectic world, there's probably people sitting there thinking to themselves, like, I don't have time to find a routine, or I don't have time to do what gives me joy because I'm just trying to do the goal achieving thing. Sometimes that includes like not eating that meal or what we think of as the basics, right? So what would you tell people about if they're thinking to themselves, I don't have time to do these things? What would you tell them as far as prioritizing it or finding the time or ways to integrate it into their day?
Yeah. So I am a new mom again. My
Congratulations.
thank you. My daughter will be 22 weeks old tomorrow, which means she's 5 months old. And something that I am in the midst of doing right now is I have alarms set on my phone. One goes off at 9 a.m. to say, choose joy today. So, whatever that means for me in that moment, that reminder goes off at 9 o'clock every day. Prior to this season of motherhood and just life, I had an alarm that went off at 8 p.m. every day that said, what brought you joy today? So at 8 o'clock, when I see the alarm go off, I pause to reflect what brought me joy today. And reflecting on that every day, I was anticipating the alarm to go off at 8 p.m. Therefore, I was ready to check in with myself about what brought me joy today. It was something for me. Nobody else knew. I would just sit and be like, what brought me joy today? What made me smile today? So if you say, I don't have the time, I challenge you to set an alarm. And when that alarm goes off, whatever you're doing, notice it, pause, take a moment. And it doesn't have to be like deep, like I need to sit down. You might be cooking and the alarm goes off like, as I'm cooking, let me think about what brought me joy today. And if you come up on nothing, know that that's okay too. The alarm gonna go off again tomorrow. So it's it's another opportunity. So I would say that accountability is another strategy that can assist with incorporating joy in your life. And what I mean by accountability, if you have a friend, a relative, a colleague, you can say, hey, can you check in with me like once a week to ask me what has brought me joy this week? Or if you don't hear from me in a week, with me just texting you what brought me joy this week, can you ask me because I am seeking to find the joy in life. And this is going to help me to be a better human.
Yeah, I really like that. The idea too, it kind of creates a ripple effect, right? It's for you, but at the end of the day, you're also spreading that concept and idea and encouraging other people to do the same and finding their joy and challenging them. I really like that. We sit down at dinner, we always say, "What's your positive of the day?" And it's kind of in that same vein. And it does make a difference. It does make you sit and pause. So that's just making me smile. I'm thinking about it now, and love that.
That's
Um,
good.
I
I'm
think you
glad
talked.
you do that with your family.
I try, we don't sit down every night. It's not it's not a picture perfect, but
No, but it's done when it's done, and that's what matters.
you talk a lot about journaling in the book, but this sounds like you don't write it down every day. So I'm
Mm-mm.
curious if you can talk through, I know journaling was really important to your journey. How do you kind of know what you're journaling about, or what does your journaling look like at different seasons?
Mm.
I know in college you did it a ton. As a mother of four, are you still able to do that? Or what other mediums have you kind of used to kind of capture those, the trauma and unravel some of that tension?
Mm. Great question. Yes, in different seasons, there's writing, and some there's not. And that's normal, ebbs and flows, right? Um, what do I ask myself? It is, sometimes journaling for me is getting things out of my head. So you may relate to this as a person who is constantly engaging with other people. It's like, how do I get my stuff out of my head? Whatever is on my to-do list, or whatever may be keeping me up at night, or messing up my sleep cycle, or distracting me, or exciting me. Lately, what I've been doing, not consistently, but as I need to, I write in my journal bulleted lists, because I'm at the point in my journey where sitting down writing paragraphs is not that kind of time I got. But but I write bullet points, and I notice after I get those things out in bullet point format, I'm able to have the clarity and the focus that I need for that moment, for that day, or for that meeting, or for homework time, which we just finished not too long ago, right? Like I can't focus because it's out of my head and it's onto paper. So journaling didn't start out that way for me. When I started journaling back in 2010, it was a means of therapy for me, because I didn't have a counselor or a therapist that I was seeing. So I started writing, and my writing came out poetically, and the first writings turned into my first book. And as I started to notice that writing was healing for me and cathartic, and um literally I felt relief after I was writing. I was like, oh my God, like, why didn't I know about this before? So anytime, my very, very early writings and journaling sessions were always when I was mad about something. Like, that's the only I kid you not, that's the only time that I wrote, when I was angry about something. And I remember a friend of mine at the time, now my husband, was like, "So is all of your writings like when you mad?" Like, and I was like, "Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's my safe space. That's my safe space. I gotta get it out somehow, right?" But now it has since evolved.
Yeah, and you share some of that poetry in the book, which I think was really beautiful to read. And I think of these visionary, high achieving, go getting women being again that picture perfect and wanting to make sure it's perfect. But when you journal, I think it's a lot of free flowing. Can you talk about the permission you gave yourself when you journaled,
Mm,
as far as like you know it not being perfect per se, or kind of how you allowed that to flow in a way without overthinking or fixing, or obviously you
yeah.
didn't know you were going to publish it at that point, but
Oh
like what.
no, not at all. And I think that was the beauty. The beauty for me. to flow was knowing that this is the one space that doesn't talk back to me. Paper and pen has no opinion. Mm,
It's true.
and I love that. I was just like, I can write anything. Like I could just let it out because paper and pen has no opinion. It's not talking back to me. And it's in safekeeping. Like no one is going through my journal.
Right. Except for your husband who thinks you're angry.
I mean, that was much later after I was healed from stuff I wrote. But in that in that time, I was like, nobody's going through my journals. I had a single. This was my senior year at Illinois Wesleyan. I had a single. I don't have a roommate. Like I'm free. It was a place where I found freedom.
Yeah, that's incredible.
And allowing myself to be undone. And what I mean by undone, like a lot of my early writings had tear stains. Like I would cry and write. Nobody was around. I'm crying and writing. And it felt so great afterwards.
That's I think again it's cherished time, right? To find that space, to find whatever that space is for you, whether that's a coffee shop or in your house or wherever you
Mhm.
feel like you can
Or
cry
in your car.
in your car.
I've sometimes I keep my journal in my car sometimes. So if I ever decide to pull over or I'm sitting somewhere waiting on my journal's right there. I can pick it up if I choose to. If I don't have it, I have way too many to count notepads, like notes in my phone with a bunch of notes and thoughts.
After we had an opportunity to talk before tonight, just to get prepared for today, and after we had that discussion, I actually went online and downloaded an app where it like pings me to
Mhm.
journal, like a journaling app, because I've started so many journals and have like one or two entries, and then I find them a year or two later.
Mm.
And I think that idea of having it with you in those little moments, right, at a doctor's office appointment, at your kids waiting for the concert to start because you had to get a front row, so you got there too early. These kinds of things, right? And I think
Yes.
it is in a hectic world. It is like that convenience factor, whether it's a bullet point list or kind of working through something. It's you have the tools. You have the tools with you, and just that can go a long way
It
for sure.
does.
One of the things you talked about kind of having to work through was perfectly hidden depression syndrome, which is something I
Mhm.
hadn't, like a term I had never heard of. And again, I went through and looked it up, and you provided some good resources in the book for looking it up. And after reading more about it was really interesting. And I'm just wondering, in that chapter you talk about, is it okay to be, it's okay not to be okay. I'm going to say that again because I think I
Mhm.
messed it up. It is okay not to be okay, which I think is something a lot of women struggle to really say is okay. Like, we can say it, but we don't necessarily mean it. Can you just discuss the concept a little bit more
Mhm.
and your own struggles and strategies for wrestling with that?
Yeah. So, in writing Captivating Confidence, I was doing research for the book and I came across uh perfectly hidden depression. Um and I was like, oh my God, let me buy this book, right? And I read it and I was like, oh my God. Like I literally kept saying that as I was reading it because it resonated with me so much. What the premise of perfectly hidden depression is perfectly hidden depression doesn't show up like depression as we know it, as people talk about it. Perfectly hidden is you're still able to show up and be your best self, your external best self. But there's a lot of internal things that you're suffering with. And I took the assessment and almost checked off every one. And I was like, what? What? Like, wow. And the reason I say wow, because for a long time, not sh for a long time, I would wrestle with what I thought was seasonal depression, right? You know, we coming up on the season where it's start getting dark earlier and things of that nature. But what I came to find out that it was not seasonal depression. Is I had experienced so many traumatic events in the fall time
Oh,
at a certain year that every year my body remembered.
wow. So the triggers.
So the
Yeah.
triggers that when it started getting dark outside, that's when all the things that had happened. And I was like, oh my, it just gave me so much language to why I was struggling to wake up um and be ready for the day, or why I wanted to just sleep a little bit longer or not be bothered or short tempered, right? It just all started to make sense because I was dealing with perfectly hidden depression, but still showing up with my external self because that's what I knew to do. That's what I was taught. You show up, you be on time, you do what you need to do, you go home.
Right. Yeah. I think you've heard this a couple of times now, but it really is a taught behavior in so many
Mhm.
ways. Um, which we need to teach the unverse of that, right? The untraining yourself, I think, is what you said earlier, which is hard to do. How did you kind of, once you identified that, right, this is what it is, and you have the language,
Mhm.
were there other strategies that helped you work through kind of getting past the depression, or at least um,
Yeah,
navigating it a little bit better?
a few things. Trying to remember what year that was. Yes, I think I was in therapy at the time. So I brought it to my therapist, like, I just discovered this book and I took the assessment and I fit in it. Like, can we talk about that? So therapy really helped me to navigate my emotions and gave me strategies. And the whole alarm thing that I was sharing with you earlier, like that came from my therapist. She was like, you should set an alarm on your phone. And so it can pull you into joy, like you can focus, right? Um, Deep breathing. It may sound basic, but let me tell you, game changer. So that helps learning how to breathe and doing it daily. I will have an alarm that went off for that too. Like, did you breathe today? Because the breathing slowed me down enough to pause to acknowledge where I was in the moment, which made me more mindful, which helped in turn I could show up um, with more compassion for myself. So that's another strategy. I'm a person that enjoys prayer. Praying helped me as well. And also um, opening up a couple of pages of my book to my friends. So, not walking the journey alone, but building community in the midst of healing.
I think that's huge. I think, a lot of conversation post COVID has been the isolation, the move towards virtual, not connecting in person, or not connecting and hiding behind. I think that opening up and bringing in community is huge. And you actually talked about kind of looking back at your friends and family as a source of some of the behavioral norms you had learned, right? So it's surrounding yourself with people that bring, you know, the joy in those pieces to you, but also looking at your community and who helped form you, and kind of helping
Mhm.
look at behavioral norms and your past to kind of understand where you are now, which I thought was really interesting. And I'm wondering, maybe you can just talk a little bit about how you kind of grappled with, like, appreciating all the loved ones in
Mhm.
your life, but also understanding that they kind of trained you in that go-getting way that didn't bring the wellness.
Yeah.
If I'm saying
Man,
that,
this is,
I'm trying to put that in a nice, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like there's a balance
Oh,
there.
it, man, it's so, how do I don't want to put this. All of us are a tapestry of our families, right? We are the beauty and sometimes the mosaic tile pieces that's broken with the hammer,
Yeah.
the imperfections. And as I was looking and reflecting on my parents, my grandparents, my aunties and uncles, I was like, man, oh, I got this from them. I got that from them. Oh, I definitely learned that. And taking joy in it, right? But also recognizing the things that I learned that may not serve me well today, but probably served me well before this out of safety, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and being in certain environments and also putting behaviors in context. And so, what I mean by in context, being a Black person in America um, hasn't always been well and
Sure.
continues to be a narrative. So some of the traits and behaviors are protective mechanisms for safety reasons. So putting all of these things in context and saying, okay, Bianca, who do you want to be? We have some decisions to make, how we choose to show up. And then what do we want to pass down to your children? So I'm grateful for everyone who has come before me that lived their life out loud and that shared their stories and journeys and joys and challenges and things that probably nobody else knows with me that made them who they are. And the more I started learning about my family history and just listening to stories and looking at pictures like, oh, who was that? And they're like, oh, back in 19 something, 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 that was something, something. And I was like, what happened to them? And learning all of this rich history made me feel more proud and also gave me more questions to ask, like, okay, what does that mean for me today? How do I resolve conflict today? This is how they resolved conflict. Do I want to choose to show up in that way? What is necessary for me, for my makeup, for my temperament, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I journey through it and continue to, because I have days, I have like this inside joke because my maiden name is Spratt. And so I have an inside joke like, oh, the other Bianca is coming out. Right. And so it's like, and and that's the tapestry of the richness of the people and the lineage that I come from, that we stand for respect and honor, and your word is your bond and your name is what you have. So whatever you put your name on, you show up well. um so yeah, that's that
I think,
richness.
yeah, it's choice and agency. I really like that. Like it's learning, where things came from for you, but you have a choice and you have agency in
Hmm.
where you want to continue that forward or if it works for you or it doesn't. And I think we probably have other moms on the line. Like how do you see that as a parent? Like what have you, like what's a way you were raised that maybe is something that you've evolved and kind of how does it affect your parenting, or how have you like kind of helping this
Mm.
next generation maybe not stay so hidden, right? And how are you kind of adjusting to the like teaching this next generation?
Yeah, my parents were great at teaching me how to advocate for myself. um and that's something that I pass down to my children. But plus that, I'm teaching them the importance of knowing how to name your emotions and your feelings. And so I bought pillows that got the feelings on them. We got charts on the wall. Um, we check in on a regular basis. How you doing today? You need to point at the pillow. Which emotion is it and why? Like what has caused that? That's something that I've added to my parenting because of what I've learned and journeyed through. And because of that, my parents in turn are like, oh. They're learning as I'm learning as we're teaching
Mhm.
them because in their generation, emotions weren't talked about like that. So they're looking at me like, what do you mean?
What is this
we,
numbness you're
we
talking
don't
about?
we don't talk about those things. No, we don't talk about that. So I would say that's one major difference. And I truly believe in emotional intelligence. So how are you regulating yourself? I need you to know, little person, because you're a human, um, how to calm yourself, how to soothe. Do you need to take a breath? Do you need to take a walk? Do we need a break? Like, so equipping them with the tools um, at this tender age that they're at school age to be able to be their best selves, advocate. But while doing that, you know what that means for me as a mom?
You're on the
I
hook too.
have to do it.
Right. Yeah. As
And
you were
when
talking about deep breathing, I
and,
was like, yeah, yep.
and, and when I have those moments of, I, you know what I do? I come back and I apologize
Yeah. I
and
mean,
say you
right.
and because they need to know that it doesn't matter what age you are, what role you play. No one's ever above apologizing to anybody. Like I'm sorry for shouting or losing my cool. I did not mean that. I'm going to do better. And this is what better means for me as your mother.
That's, yeah. It's kind of the piece of being gracious to yourself too, right? To give your space to not be perfect, to apologize. Like it's okay if I messed up and I have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
That's okay,
Yeah.
right? It's okay not to do
It's okay not to be okay. And it's
it.
okay for me to say, I'm not okay today. I need, give me 5 minutes. Like,
Yes, yes been there, for sure. I'm laughing because I can think of a recent memory, in fact. So I'm just going to check in here. I think we wanted to leave time for questions and answers. I certainly could ask you millions more, but I just want to turn it over to see if we have questions from the audience.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm checking in on some questions. I do encourage you to write some questions if things have come to mind. I'm certainly feeling inspired by all of this wonderful conversation. And I know we could just go on and on and on about this topic, which is so important and so relevant to each and every one of us. Um, but I know one of the questions I had was for Jessica. Jessica, you are involved with Council for Women here on the IWU campus with alumni. Could you just share a little bit more with us about what that is?
Yeah, certainly. Um, very excited. This is our 20th anniversary, which also means my 20th anniversary as an alum, which is just, a bit crazy. But, the idea of the Council for Women really started out of wanting to be an alumni network that connected both with each other and creating a strong women's network across alumni, but also to kind of be a strong network for Wesleyan students and current students to help mentor them, to help open up connections and opportunities for internships or professional opportunities and that kind of thing. So we always talk about the cross of, mentoring down to students, but also networking across our network. So we're just a bunch of women alums or people who identify as women, that we, our core of our mission is sharing time, talent, and treasure in whatever way you can. And as someone who's not in Bloomington, that often means virtual meetings or serving. I used to be in charge of governance and doing bylaws, which I know excites everyone. But there's many ways to engage, and we're on campus twice a year for homecoming, and then a spring meeting, which is usually in February, to connect in person in Bloomington. But we do a lot of virtual events, and there's other ways to kind of network. I think I dropped the website if anyone's interested in the chat that can be shared. If people want to engage, or that, you know, can always reach out to me by email or on LinkedIn. But we're just a fun network of women trying to help people and help each other and support each other and create that community Bianca was talking about.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, we encourage everyone to go to the IWU alumni page, and you can learn more about that as well as our other affinity groups. But we do have another question. We have a comment that says, thank you, Bianca, for your expertise and moving presentation. How do you put your best foot forward in a corporate or professional setting when you do not have the mental capacity to meet the expectations for that day or in that time frame?
Mm.
Great question.
It is. It is. You know, it took me a while to get to this space and place. So I'm gonna take you to where I was to bring you up to speed to where I am. When I knew I didn't have the capacity, this is something I wasn't encouraged to do, but I still pushed. I still did it anyway. Um, and left even more depleted, right? But now, when I am gauging my own capacity, what I do is I communicate it. I communicate it to my supervisor and my team that I manage and say, hey, just want to let you all know. Um, Today I am at low capacity, and I'll even give a one-liner to what that means. I'm limiting my meetings today, and may need to reschedule a couple of things so I can have focused time to get things done. Or you can say, it depends on like what type of work you do and what's going on. Be like, you know what, it's okay if I have 10 minutes before the meeting starts. I just need to get myself together so I can show up as my best self with the capacity that I have in the moment. So for me, but practicing that also means being vulnerable, right? Like admitting, especially if you, like me, recovering perfectionist, if you're like, no, every day I got to be 150%, like that is not realistic. Like everyone is living through something, right? Everyone is living through something. So, one, being gracious to yourself, and two, communicating that you may need more time. If it's a project that you say you can knock it out in a week, but you get into day three and you like, I'm not even gonna meet my own deadline because there's been some other circumstances beyond my control. How do you go back and have that conversation and renegotiate?
That's so interesting. Yes, I think that is so important that we are great communicators. That's a skill that we're all continually building on and practicing. We have another great question for Bianca. She says, Bianca, thank you for being yourself. I haven't had a chance to read your book, although I do have a copy. I'm wondering, what would you tell your younger self? We talked about this in our just time together before tonight. We have a lot of new younger students here on campus. We have our biggest class in the last 15 years joining us this year. And it is so exciting to have new students, but I know you remember your time
Yeah,
as a young IWU student. And I'm just curious, what would you tell your younger self?
man. I would tell my younger Bianca that it's okay that you don't know. And What I mean by that is I came to IWU. I originally wanted to come as a pre-med student, and I didn't get in as a pre-med student because my ACT score said not. And but I kept sociology as my major. And what that meant for me is my dreams of becoming a pediatrician started to look more and more into the distance. I'm not a pediatrician today, so FYI. It looked more and more into the distance. And I would tell her that it's okay that you don't know. It's okay that what you have dreamt about since you were 5 years old and literally studied, researched through the age of 17 is no longer what you're pursuing. It's okay to feel disoriented. It's okay to explore. It's okay that you don't even have a plan today. But everything is going to work out if you continue to follow what your interests are. You will land where you are supposed to land at any given moment. And guess what? And know this, years later, you're still going to be figuring out what
That's
you
true.
enjoy, because with every season of life, with every new exposure, there comes a new thought, a new idea, a pivot, that this is just full of exploration and that nobody has it figured out.
Oh, that is so, so true. And I hope all of our young viewers out there are hearing that tonight as we talk about it, that that is absolutely okay. Are there alternatives to journaling? Have you found any other good ones about purging your
Mhm.
thoughts from your mind? We talked about being on the go. I know, Jessica, you said you found a really great app that works well for you. Are there other alternatives to just writing it down?
It depends on the person. So I'm a movement human being. I like walking. I like dancing. It really depends on what you are open to exploring. If that is talking, if that is walking, if that is, my mom likes to crochet, if that is some form of art. I would say explore. If that is making pottery, try it.
Try new things, right? Try
Yeah.
new things. That's a great one. Well, we have had some really wonderful questions tonight and some great conversations. So I just want to thank both Jessica and Bianca for being here tonight. Um, we will continue on in this conversation with each other and amongst each other. So go and be your authentic selves this week and explore and try new things. And it's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to learn how to label your feelings well. I do want to mention that Bianca can be found on Instagram at Bianca N Cotton, and Behind the Confident Smile airs on Monday nights at 7 p.m. in Central Standard Time on Can TV. And you can subscribe to Bianca's newsletter at behindtheconfidentsmile.com. Thank you both for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks
This
for
was
having
great.
me.
All
Yes.
right. All right. Enjoy your evening, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for attending tonight's webinar. Have a great day.
Take care.